So there is a wealth of information that is around this day, and of course for me that is a beautiful thing. Looking back from where we've come from to where we are now, that is exciting. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Good morning, Monica. How are you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm well. I'm lively. I feel I feel full of love, I should say, this Thursday morning. And the weather does look quite amazing as well. But when you mention about throwing back to the time when television, I think I was lucky to be born when television was broadcasting 24/7.
Oh, wow.
Though ideally, again, it was, we didn't have so many television stations in Uganda.
Yes.
I think even during such a time, even when you look at the time DSTV started operating services, or pay TV decoders started operating in Uganda, I think for a home that had DSTV back in the time,
You were rich.
you were rich. If they could just see a dish, you know, at your rooftop or at your roof, they will definitely know that this home is for planned kids, or let's say planned parents. But things have really changed now. You can ideally see how people, we have so many pay TV companies coming up. We have so many Ugandans who can afford these particular ones because of the bouquets that are quite a number, obviously. But so I think those times were really difficult for some of you, because I can only imagine if television
Did you just say some of you?
Okay, let me say for everybody in regards to, because back then there was no use of smartphones, and people are only waiting for, let's say, Uganda television at 6 p.m. I did. Oh. I did. Okay. No, but by that time we had.
Why are you saying that you were born when TVs were broadcasting 24/7?
No, because by the time, I got to start watching a lot of TV. I think the likes of WBS were adopting to, broadcasting 24/7.
So you never saw those different colored lines.
I saw. Those I saw. But at that time, TVs were broadcasting. But at that time, TVs but at that time, TVs were broadcasting from 6.
He mentioned that station that came in a little later on.
WBS.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, he's a baby.
But when you look at the UTV back then as well, by the time we came into, by the time I came into existence, I should say, at least television was now broadcasting on a full day.
And actually, the most important aspect is that we went from analog to digital.
Yeah, but that is recent.
The entire country, yes, because we are talking about the evolution of TV.
Sango, I'm giving you a side eye right now.
So right now, as we speak, the entire country is on the digital part of things. We had a digital transformation where we stopped having analog. That's how a government introduced free-to-air decoders for people that cannot afford
satellite TV.
Satellite TV. Like now we have for people that cannot afford a monthly subscription. We have that option, and of course, for people that can afford a monthly subscription, there are so many ways you can actually access TV. We have a lot of pay TV, both locally and even internationally. Good morning, Chantal Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you this morning? I'm
great. You look nice in that olive green.
Thank you. I've noticed that over time it's very important to know the colors that do some wonders. So if you want to look a little bit lighter, just a tip for someone, an emerald green does wonders at just making you pop a little more.
Yeah, it looks amazing on you.
Thank you. And I'm hoping our dearest viewer is doing wonderful this morning. It is a Thursday, and from Monday I was looking forward to the weekend. And the weekend is here. Yes. And guess what I'm going to do over the weekend? Sleep.
That's the grand plan.
That is the grand plan, but things are likely to change. You just might never know. One phone call like this and things have changed.
One question, Oliwa.
That is enough to cause confusion. Our tofu these days, our tofu. That is enough to cause confusion, and the next thing, where are my shoes? And you're getting out of the house. But the grand plan is to rest, not sleep, rest.
But you've actually mentioned about throwback. There's also a report that has been making some rounds since yesterday in relation to the former Uganda Railways Corporation, Stanley Sendegea, who who was charged and remanded over forging academic documents that enabled him secure a job. This has actually reminded me of back in the time where most of the institutions did not mind a lot about the academic documents, until when government actually came out, even in media, some media houses did not mind about whether someone has gone through school or nothing. If they have the talent, they would definitely go on air, or they will definitely get the jobs.
Isn't that what is happening today, though, in most media
no,
houses?
it is, but at least there is some regulation because UCC set out regulations that if you are to hire someone, they should have an education background, or else the producer will be at risk of losing their jobs, and of course losing their documents. And when I look at this report, you get to realize that back in the time, it was that most people were actually being let's say hired because maybe your father knows knows the owner of the company, whether you've gone to school or not. But lately, according to the way I've seen things, the issue whereby people are being employed because the family is connected to the company, at least there is an element of let your child bring her papers, or let your child bring his papers.
What you're saying is that nepotism is still there, but at least this time round,
it is supported by the documents and the papers.
I feel like there's still two evils.
Yeah, it is two evil, but the other time it was quite really unfair.
Initially, the first challenge was people are being put in offices that they did not they don't qualify for.
Yes.
Initially. So right now, the only defense someone has is that I have the academic documents.
Yes.
I have the experience. So aside from nepotism, which other reason is going to be stated,
yes,
it is being used to hide nepotism, though we can't say that it's not happening.
Yeah,
so basically,
it is happening,
nepotism
but at least
is being dressed in a different type of way.
Well, it's
in a more professional, in an improved manner.
It's improved because at the very least we're getting someone who is qualified in that field.
Anyway,
the only challenge would go to the question on their integrity and character, if they can sit in that position and deliver accordingly. Yes.
Anyway, we normally have such conversations here, but for now, let's take you into the local news, and we will start with Parliament. The Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, has directed for an exclusion from all parliamentary activities the members of Parliament who shun plenary sittings. According to Among, any member of Parliament who shuns plenary proceedings will be excluded from foreign trips, committee sittings, and also put off the list of those to participate in the forthcoming East African Parliamentary Games slated to take place between 7th and 18th December in Rwanda. And moving on, at Uganda Road Magistrates Court, the former managing director of Uganda Railway Corporation, Stanley Sendegea, faced 3 charges for allegedly providing false documents to secure his position as managing director at the Uganda Railways Corporation. Sendegea pleaded not guilty to these charges and was subsequently remanded to Luzira prison. And in more news, still on corruption, a dramatic scene unfolded at the Anti-Corruption Court in Kampala as Chief Magistrate Sylvia Mvanungu from Sembabule Court and Chief State Attorney Bako Jacqueline were charged and remanded on 9 counts of corruption. According to the prosecution, the 2 officials allegedly received a sum exceeding 10.4 million from suspects. This alleged gratification was supposedly to secure the release on bail of certain individuals and to exclude them from the charge sheet. And lastly, the atmosphere in Kansanga and Lukuli parishes Makinde division was one of jubilation as residents warmly welcomed the Minister for Lands, Dr. Sam Mayanja. His visit to Chibati zone brought long-awaited positive news to the community amidst a meeting held to address their concerns. Several villages, including Sankasa, Mutesasira and Chiwempe, were on the brink of eviction due to a claim made by Dr. Martin Kato, who asserted ownership based on plot 254, block 300 in Kansanga, Nabutiti. Well, that does it for the local news. Now let's delve into the international news.
Crossing over to the international scene, checking what is happening across the world, North Korea has said it will move more troops and military equipment to the border with South Korea and will no longer be bound by a 2018 joint military accord after Seoul suspended parts of the agreement in response to Pyongyang's launch of a military spy satellite. North Korea will never be bound by the agreement, state media reported, citing the Defense Ministry. The comprehensive military agreement was signed at a 2018 summit between North Korea leader Kim Jong-un and former South Korean President Moon Jae-in as part of an attempt to reduce tensions on the peninsula and build trust between the two countries. Seoul withdrew from parts of the deal on Wednesday after Pyongyang said it had successfully launched the Malingyong-1 into orbit following failures in May and August. Now, again, veteran anti-Islam populist leader Geert Wilders is heading for a dramatic victory in the Dutch general election, according to a first result forecast. After 25 years in parliament, his Freedom Party, PVV, is projected to win 36 seats, well ahead of his nearest rival, a left-wing alliance. The PVV can no longer be ignored, he said. We will govern. If confirmed, the result will shake Dutch politics, but he will have to persuade other parties to join him in a coalition government. His target is 76 seats in the 150-seat parliament. Mr. Wilders, 60, was in combative mood in his victory speech. We want to govern and we will. The seat numbers are an enormous compliment, but an enormous responsibility too. Before the vote, the three other big parties ruled out taking part in a Wilders-led government, but this might change. Also, a Ghanaian MP has apologized to Manchester United footballer Harry Maguire after mocking him last year. MP Isaac Odongo was debating the budget when he compared Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia's economic management to Maguire's performance on the pitch. Maguire has come in for heavy criticism from some fans, but fellow footballers have come to his defense. On Tuesday, Mr. Odongo said he wanted to correct the record and hailed Maguire as a transformational footballer. He was a key player for Manchester United, Mr. Odongo said during a budget debate, but he did not let up his criticism of Vice President Bawumia. As for our Maguire, he is now at IMF with a cup in hand. He added, Mr. Bawumia is the head of the government's economic management team as Ghana faces its most severe economic crisis in years. Now, speaking matters climate, at a camp for internally displaced people in the outskirts of Bayadoa city in southwest Somalia, Halima Abdi, 57, walks through the flooded compound to access her makeshift house. It is partly submerged in the water, which had forced her to leave the previous day. Most of her neighbors have left to seek shelter, and as she stands in the almost empty camp of scattered shanty houses, she checks to see what is left after the flood swept away her belongings. We were forced to flee after 3 days of heavy rain that almost took our lives, Abdi, a single mother of 7 children, told Al Jazeera. We are left with nothing but just the pillars of the house, and the floods swept away all our goods, including the utensils, mattresses, and clothes. I have rescued my children and taken them to a different house in the town. Well, that is it for climate news. So sad what is happening in Somalia, but also what is happening across different parts of the country in the world.
Thank you, Chantal, for that news report. Now, Jerome Paul Sonko will take us through what has made it to the front pages of our local dailies.
Well, now the New Vision highlights oil search starts in Teso, Busoga and Lango areas as ground gravity, magnetic and geological surface mapping starts next month to search for oil in those regions. Also, Joyce Mpanga to be laid to rest today, pictorial of those who were in church to pay their last respects to the late. You can read more about that in the New Vision today. Now, in the investigative series, Balalo, tradition or excuse for land grabbing. Read about it. Court, DPP takes over marriage case against Chabazinga. As Parliament, the opposition split over continued boycott. Then also, President Museveni receives equal opportunities report. That is what the New Vision is having at its front pages this morning. Well, in the next hour, we shall be looking at what the Daily Monitor is highlighting and also crossing over to check out what is making headlines in Kenya and also in Tanzania.
Well, thank you for that, Jerome Paul. Now, today is a Throwback Thursday, so we will leave you with a throwback song to inspire you this morning, and we'll take a short break. We'll be right back. This day, and of course, for me, that is a beautiful thing. Looking back from where we've come from, to where we are now, that is exciting. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Good morning, Monica. How are you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm well. I'm lively. I feel I feel full of love, I should say, this Thursday morning. And the weather does look quite amazing as well. But when you mentioned about throwing back to the time when television, I think I was lucky to be born when television was broadcasting 24/7.
Oh, wow.
Though ideally, again, it was, we didn't have so many television stations in Uganda.
Yes.
I think even during such a time, even when you look at the time DSTV started operating services or pay TV decoders started operating in Uganda, I think for a home that had DSTV back in the time,
You were rich.
you were rich. If they could just see a dish, you know, at your, at your rooftop or at your roof, they will definitely know that this home is for planned kids or let's say planned parents, but things have really changed now. You can ideally see how people, we have so many pay TV companies coming up. We have so many Ugandans who can afford afford these particular ones because of the bouquets that are quite a number, obviously. But so I think those times were really difficult for some of you, because I can only imagine if television
Did you
is
just say some of you?
okay, let me say for everybody, in regards to, because back then there was no use of smartphones, and people are only waiting for, let's say, Uganda television at 6 p.m. I did. Oh. I did. Okay. No, but
so,
by that time
why
we had.
Are you saying that you were born when TVs were broadcasting 24/7?
No, because by the time I got to start watching a lot of TV, I think the likes of WBS were adopting to, broadcasting 24/7.
So you never saw those different colored lines.
I saw. Those I saw, but at that time,
and what are you
TVs were broadcasting.
No.
But at that time TVs no.
But when you say,
but at that time TVs were broadcasting from 6.
He mentioned that station that came in a little later on.
WBS.
Oh my goodness, yeah, he's a baby.
But when you look at the UTV back then as well, by the time we came in by the time I came into existence, I should say, at least television was now broadcasting on a full day.
And actually, the most important aspect is that we went from analog to digital.
Yeah, but that is recent.
The entire country, yes, because we are talking about the evolution of TV.
Things are moving. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
You are still watching Good Morning Uganda. We appreciate you for spending your morning with us every single morning from Monday to Friday. Thank you so much. We are always honored to be spending our mornings with you, and of course to be having important discussions with you. Now today we want to look at the different cases of extortion in our hospitals, especially public hospitals. We have seen different cases being reported in the media and would like to know what's going on in these hospitals. Now the one that is hot at the moment is the case of extortion that happened in Masaka Hospital, where a senior surgeon is on the spot for having asked for a bribe of about 700,000 before he could operate on a child that was suspected to have kidney disease. But this, among others, is a case that has been brought to the fore. But also, we also go back to where a case was reported by health activists under the Southern Region Social Rights Association, saying that the IGG's office should look into the issue of extortion in Masaka Hospital. But this conversation is going to be broadened, and we will look at other cases of extortion in different hospitals because there have been many reported. We'd like to see, why are there extortion cases in hospitals? Why are doctors more interested in money than saving lives? And of course, we would like to know, where is the government? Where is the laxity? Why is it that doctors in public hospitals are behaving this way, yet the government is on record to have increased their pay, especially for specialists? And of course, they are paid, the government claims to be paying them in time. So why are they doing this? And of course, how is this affecting our public health system in the country? Because majority of Ugandans cannot afford health care from private hospitals. They have to go to public hospitals. But now, if they're being extorted, where do they run to? These and more are some of the questions we want to look into and see if we can find solutions or suggest solutions to the government and governing bodies for these hospitals, so that Ugandans are not affected when they seek medical help in these public hospitals. So we would like for you to be a part of this conversation on WhatsApp number 0709602592. But also you can have this your opinions shared through the X app, and the hashtag is UBCGMU. We'd like to hear from you. Now I'll go back to the team, that is Chantal Olive, and of course Joram Paul Sonko, and myself, Olive Monica Najuma, for us to have this conversation. And I'll start with Chantal. Chantal, we have seen different cases, we've seen headlines, we've seen stories written and reported about by different media houses. What's going on in these public hospitals?
Thank you so much, Olive. Well, a lot is going on when we talk extortion. And while trying to do a little bit of more research, I realized that when we talk about extortion, the first thing that comes to our minds, it goes to just the patients being extorted. But I've also realized that even people who want to work in some of those hospitals are being extorted. Someone tells you there is a job here, but if you want to get the job, you're going to pay me 1.2 million Uganda shillings, and then I'll see how to push for you to get the job. Like, we've seen these cases happen in some other organizations and companies. So it cuts across. Patients are being extorted. We have examples of Mukono Hospital. We have examples of Kawempe Hospital. We have examples of a hospital in Masaka. So a lot of this is happening, and it all goes back down to why are we seeing this happening in especially public hospitals. It's very rare for this to happen in public hospitals. If you've had a chance to compare the two, you realize that the private hospitals, you get in there, the price is already stipulated, there's a system that is working on you, and you're able to move through. Unless if you want to see a particular doctor and they're telling you, for you to see that doctor, you pay this much.
And it's still not extortion, it's stipulated.
Yes, it is known. But then the problem now is that our public hospitals that are supposed to be offering us free services are the ones that are going ahead to extort people who are supposed to be getting these services.
So the big question is why? Why are doctors in public hospitals extorting patients, extorting people that want to work in these hospitals?
The very first reason I would look at would be what I would call small payments or not enough payments being given to these doctors, because if someone reaches that point, then the first reason would be they're not paid enough. The next reason would be delayed payments, because we know that sometimes government salaries actually take long to hit the account. The other reason would be greed and selfishness. Some people are just greedy and selfish, and they're looking to milk anything and anyone that is going to give them an extra penny, because they have selfish needs that they need to they need to take care of. So those would be the three major reasons I would look at: delayed payments, less payment, and greed of some of these individuals.
So now, if someone says delayed payment, now don't get me wrong, every one of us, when we work somewhere, we want our salaries to be remitted in record time. But when you say delayed payment and you now resort to extorting the people that you're supposed to take care of, because in the case of the patient in Masaka, apparently when the family couldn't raise the 700,000, then they were not touched by this particular doctor. So, aren't we now overlooking the main purpose of medicine, of being a doctor?
Yes, we are, because when you also look at the cases in 2019, if I'm to refer back a bit, in Fort Portal, there was a reported case in the Fort Portal General Hospital that the doctors were actually charging or asking for 100,000 Ugandan shillings from expectant mothers. So if a mother didn't have 100,000 Ugandan shillings to 150,000, then you would not be attended to.
That is for normal delivery, meanwhile.
Yes. Then again in the same year, similar cases in Palisa. And this time round in Palisa, it was rather higher, because for them they were charging, still in 2019, they were charging between 300,000 to 400,000. 450, 500,000.
No more delivery?
You know, no more. That is for C-section. For the C-section. But when you look at the situation, the reason as to why most people opt for these hospitals is because they believe the services are free, and in case there is an unattached fee, obviously it will be well stipulated. It should be minimal. Yeah, yes. It's minimal, and there is a receipt to the payment. But when you look at the extension cases here, in most cases it's paid directly to the supervisor or to the doctor. Yes. Or case in point here, the surgeon. Because the doctor may come in or the surgeon may come in and say, well, I'm not going to work on this particular patient until they pay this particular amount of money. So, and the reason is, like Shatal did mention, is because at times it's because of the delayed payments or that. But going back to the question you did ask, that doesn't it change the entire narrative purpose of medication, or what we view as a health practitioner and what they're supposed to do? Obviously it does, because if I am a patient per se, and I'm highly a big supporter of, let's say, going into government hospitals, I lose my faith in these doctors or in the government services. And again, also, looking back at the fact that when doctors are going into, medicine or studying medicine right from the time they get into university, we've had all these conversations that the passion has to be there for anyone to get into, into medicine, because you want to heal people or you want to save lives, and that is the major purpose of you getting in there. However much there is a paycheck attached to it at the end of the month or at the end of the week or at the end of any assignment you're doing. But because we have patients in these hospitals, it becomes very difficult for me to start trusting government spaces or public hospitals if at all such things happen. So it puts the medical fraternity at risk, or let's say the medical profession at risk, that people will not trust them as much. So when you look at the situation like here of a surgeon asking for 700,000 Ugandan shillings, again, you wonder if this particular patient decided to take their child to a public hospital, it tells you that they do not have money to afford a private hospital. Because believe it or not, if we all have the money to to afford these public hospital, or rather the private hospitals, we would be rushing there, because we know if you have the rightful amount, they're definitely going to work on you, because their priority is who has money, or who is paying the bill.
Actually, their priority is to offer great service.
Great service, as long
let's
as
agree that
most,
let's agree that most public hospitals do not have every facility required to, and if they are there, they are limited in
and that is why in most cases
available.
these doctors refer. They would refer you to a hospital, or in most cases refer you to the referral hospital, that is Mulago. If, for example, you're in Fort Portal or you're in Palisa and they do not have those services, they will refer you to Mulago. And if you go to Mulago and the cases are way bigger, Mulago will then refer you to either Aga Khan in Nairobi or India.
Does Mulago, though, refer people to Aga Khan, because it is the national referral hospital, does it refer people to Nairobi, Aga Khan in Nairobi, or people decide on their own to seek extra?
No, doctors make recommendations depending on how big the issue is. If it is really complicated and they feel they may not be in position to handle it properly, they are going to go ahead and refer you to a particular doctor or a particular hospital that they know can handle the situation.
Now that you mentioned that, there have been also, I've had conversations with doctors who say that in some cases, the patients insist on going to certain hospitals, believing that some services cannot be accessed.
Can you blame them though?
Let me finish. For instance, the case of, you've had so many people going to India for, let's say, maybe heart surgeries and whatnot. And it has now been discovered that some people are working as agents for some hospitals in India. So whenever they refer people to those hospitals, they get a commission. So it's sometimes not because these services are not available here. Actually, you'll find that some of them are cheaper here. But the people who are referring them there, and in most cases they are doctors, are getting a commission. So there is also that to look into.
Let's look at the reputation of our hospitals and our doctors. And it would be very easy for someone to be convinced, just like we all know or we think that the Western world has better services than we do. Yet in some cases they actually do not. We can have the same services here. So in this case, the reputation of the medical sector is also something to debate upon, because people perceive it as not effective, not efficient in some cases. That is why they would rather go to India, where they feel India has all the machines, has all the specialists, so we think. And that is why someone will be quick to jump and say, it's okay, I'll go to India, look for money and go to India. Not knowing that the service is actually available in the country, or not trusting that the available service in the country is actually going to give them what they're looking for.
And of course, we've also seen cases where, like you've mentioned, that here they may actually charge you a higher fee of the same. And then we've seen patients saying, I would rather pay that amount or more away from here because they believe if you're taken to India, they will definitely work on you in most cases. But when you also look at these allegations, it takes us back to, why do these doctors engage in such? Why would I be seeking for commission from a hospital that is away from Uganda? Again, also, you start thinking about the kind of conditions they are working under. Because however much we're looking at it in a way that, well, it is wrong for them to charge 700,000 Ugandan shillings, let's say 100,000 Ugandan shillings from expectant mothers and the like. But you realize there is a reason as to why they feel comfortable to start asking for this amount of money.
What's that reason?
It may be due to greed from most of them, because we do have others who get their pay and they are being paid well. Maybe it's not so much, but they're actually getting their salary. But greed, whereby someone wants more of what they're actually earning. And it's like, if I get 300,000 this night as my allowance for this week, it will be good for me. Then I'll have to extort it from someone, from a patient who's vulnerable at the moment. And because they know, if for example it's an expectant mother, the expectant mother will definitely have to go all the way to pay that money. And then if you look at that case of the surgeon knows the mother is in a vulnerable state, her child is also in a vulnerable state, so they will definitely do anything. So
They're
greed,
desperate.
you know, exactly. So greed comes on board. But then let's also look at the grievances that the doctors themselves that are working under these public hospitals have always come out to say delayed salaries. Others were actually saying less, let's say little pay. Others were actually claiming that they are not having
Enough
allowances,
equipment.
you know, enough equipment. The conditions also make it very difficult for them. Case in point, if you look at some of those hospitals that are best deep in the country, you do realize that at times there is a patient who needs serious attention, who may be brought to hospital in the evening, and the doctor doesn't stay in there. So you mind about how the doctor is getting back, you know, and in most cases these doctors may be appointed to other hospitals, and they need to always balance their time. So when they look at it in such a time where they're not even getting enough pay, as some do claim, you will definitely realize that they would do whatever they can to squeeze these vulnerable patients in order to get more money. So it is something that goes back or stems back again also from the kind of conditions they are working under, and then the kind of payment they are receiving. Most of these doctors actually don't even have food at times. So when you look at that, once they get such patients, in their mind it's like, if I get money or if I extort money from this particular patient, I'll be able to buy lunch, I'll be able to buy myself a fuel to take me back home. So it is really wide if you're to look at it in that way.
They don't. You did mention something regarding a doctor being assigned to more than one hospital. Does that happen, especially in public hospitals?
Yes, it does happen, because
do that where a doctor is assigned to, let's say, Mbale Hospital, and also they are working in Jinja Hospital?
No, it happens in situations where you're not appointed on the same day. I think when you go to, for people who have been to dispensaries, there's a day you go to a certain dispensary or any kind of local, let's say, health center, and then they will tell you the doctor is only appointed here on Wednesdays. And then on Thursday, for example, if you go to Kajansi, you will say this doctor, this doctor is appointed
in
here
a public
on Tuesday.
hospital.
Exactly.
Okay.
You will say this person is actually appointed here on Tuesday or Mondays and Tuesday. Then that means Wednesday and Thursdays.
Are those general doctors or specialists?
No,
because general doctors, because every hospital usually has
yes,
a
there are those
general.
doctors who actually work
So
full-time.
is this different? Is it specialists where you'll say we will have the gynecologist on this day,
Exactly.
Yes.
or maybe pediatrician on this day, but then there is a general doctor for
Yes,
all the days?
we do have that general doctor. But then the others will be assigned days whereby one will actually work twice from this hospital, and then let's say Thursday, Friday, they are also appointed somewhere else. So when you look at such situations, this doctor may not have a lot of attention to a patient who is coming in at the time when he's actually signing out.
Okay, so now let's focus on the doctors that are actually at the hospital, let's say maybe every day. When it comes to still the conditions they're working under, what is the doctor-patient ratio? How many patients is one doctor supposed to work on in a day, or how many patients are they working on? Are they underworked, overworked? What's the situation like?
When you talk about that ratio, what I do know in my kind of observation, because I've at least been to health centers, you get to realize that doctors do work according to the patients that are coming in.
Now,
so it is a time when a doctor will actually close office and they will tell you the doctor has gone for lunch. Then you know it is either he's going to refresh because he has been attending to so many. So
it's still keeping the conversation on public hospitals. If you've visited a hospital like, let's say, Kawempe or Chirudu or any other health center you're going to see that the numbers are usually huge as compared
to the doctors available or to the health workers available.
Exactly. So basing on that, could it also give reason for why sometimes doctors resort to extorting money from patients because they feel, I'm already working too much?
Yes,
exactly. It's one of the reasons that that these doctors actually usually have for extorting these patients. One, in Uganda, the doctor to patient ratio is 1 one doctor to 25,000 patients.
Wow.
Now that is way above the recommendation by World Health Organization. So this doctor, by the time it clocks like midday, they've worked on a number of patients and they're already exhausted. So the next thing that comes to their mind is this equivalent to how much I am being paid? Most probably not. So this person is going to resort to such ways because they feel like I am doing way too much and I need to earn from the much that I am doing. I once had a conversation with Herbert Luswata and from the Uganda Medical Association, and he mentioned that in a day you'll find yourself doing about over 12 surgeries if you're a surgeon. And imagine this person from 6 in the morning to like midnight or even 1 or 3 a.m. they are in the theater, in and out. You know, are they supposed on their feet? Are they supposed to stay sober between 6 in the morning and even if it's just 5 p.m. during surgeries? Are they supposed to stay sober? So if this person is pushed to the point of, I'm already feeling tired. I'm already, you know, busting my heels, trying to save lives and all. But what I'm being paid is not enough, and sometimes it comes in late. They will definitely resort to extorting patients, because at that point the patient needs the doctor more than anything.
How about the equipment? There are cases where, for instance, actually the most recent case is when there was a fire at Kasana Primary School in Masaka, and these children that were burnt were referred to Masaka General Hospital, and the doctors there said they had the specialists to handle these victims, but they did not have the proper equipment to handle them, so they were now referred to Chirudu. But then even after being referred to Chirudu, the ambulances that the hospital has were either unavailable or there was no fuel.
Yeah, actually when you also look at the IGG report that was also released in collaboration with the civil society organizations, they realized that some of the illegal charges these hospitals ask for, that even the viewers need to pay attention to, is fuel for the ambulance, fueling the ambulances. Then there is laboratory fees, gloves. Some patients actually ask to buy gloves.
Especially mothers.
Yes, and then there is airtime, money for airtime. That is also highlighted in the report.
Why does the doctor need money for airtime? To consult? To consult,
then seek for other, you know, medical issues away from the hospital that is here. Let's say other medical facilities that they will actually
like equipment
and the like.
But we know that that's not how government operates. There is procurement.
It is actually well added into here when you look at the report. So when you mention fuel in ambulances, it's actually very, very serious concern.
Fuel in ambulances, yes.
As well as the
it's
lab
like when
fees,
you go to file a police report and they ask you to buy the paper.
So all these are illegal charges in public hospitals. So if a doctor is actually asking money for airtime, laboratory fees, because all these are paid for by government. So all these are situations that lead to the extortion. For example, like you mentioned, that was an emergency and the ambulance has no fuel. Now again, you ask yourself, what is the role of the supervisor who is supervising you know, the activities?
But we also know for sure that the hospital doesn't have these things, or the doctor is trying to find a loophole that they can use to enrich themselves. Because for the case of Masaka, the superintendent of the hospital said that the surgeon is under investigation because this is not how they operate. So sometimes probably, do you think it could be patients' ignorance? So, as in their ignorance leads to extortion because they don't know their way around things. They don't know what their right is. They don't know what they should and not pay for. So the doctors take advantage of this.
You can also look at the state of vulnerability. Because, for example, if you have a patient who is about to pass on, trust me, you'll do anything at that time. So whether you're ignorant or not, you'll get to realize that the doctor now is the only person who is there to work on you. And that is why most people end up, so that's why most people end up paying their way into this, because they believe if the doctor leaves and you've not worked on him, then your person is going to pass on or is going to die. And you know, we've all been into situations whereby you feel vulnerable and you become too desperate that at least you can do anything.
Actually,
if at all you do have the money.
Yes, when you have a patient, when you have, or even yourself, if you're sick, that is the most vulnerable you can be, and you might be in, like, you may do anything humanly possible to ensure that you're okay. If you have a sick child or sick parent or sibling, and they say, pay this amount of money for us to do this, you will see families looking for money in any way possible to get the money. And that takes me back to what I was telling Chantal earlier. Families that have patients that have probably chronic illnesses are usually convinced that this solution can only be handled in India. But the person who is telling you that let's go to India is a person who is also getting commission from that hospital. So the more people he sends them, the more money they are making. But because you're desperate for, you know, for your person to find healing, you're going to do anything, whether it is a car wash, whether it is a GoFundMe, you will do anything to ensure that your person is okay. But also, let's look at the other factor. We have put the doctors on the spot here. But how about the patients who intentionally offer money to the doctors, because apparently it's been normalized in our country that for you to get a certain service, you must use shortcuts. And this requires money.
I like how you've put it. It has been normalized.
By all
for
of
you
us.
Do you know why? Because it's the precedent that has been set. And now, by both doctors and the caregivers and the patients. Now it's a precedent. We know that if I go to this hospital, if I want a very good doctor, if I want a very good room, I have to get to this, the people even know who to talk to. I have to get to this lady, pay her this amount of money, I'll get a separate room, it's going to be a lot better than the others. We know. It's more like, it's more like corruption, literally. Because in public hospitals,
it is corruption.
That is the most worrying part.
You see, when we talk about corruption, in most cases, we think corruption is when, let's say, a police officer asks for a bribe. But even you, when you offer it, like when we talk about, let's say, traffic, I normally say that 10K you put on the side, with the intention of giving it to a traffic officer if they stop, you are already being corrupt. So Chantal, please continue.
No, not really. I was actually done. So we've set a precedent for ourselves. So we know that if I should get a good service in this hospital, the other thing is, it all stems from demotivation. So the only way to motivate these nurses, these doctors, for you to be able to get a good service in a public hospital, by the look of things, you might have to dig into your pocket, pull out money, and get that service. And that is why, that is because most of these practitioners are not motivated, especially financially. Especially financially, because one, the understaffing makes them feel overworked. Two, the delayed salaries, like I already put it, and also sometimes they feel they're being paid less, especially in comparison with the work that they do. So that alone is enough to demotivate them. Imagine, just like I would sit here and say I am working and I'm not being paid, but in the background I have people I take care of. Imagine the same thing for that nurse and that doctor. Don't you think they would also try to figure out ways to make sure that they fend for their families? Imagine it's been 2 months and they're not being paid. How are their people surviving back home?
Because
you understand
we at least know that health is expensive now. And they definitely know if you're coming to hospital, you will have that at the back of your mind. And the mere fact that we have also normalized, like you've said, normalizing bribing, corruption and the like, you come in with 500,000 Ugandan shillings or 1 million and you go to hospital. So in most cases, some of the doctors end up extorting money from ignorant patients, let's say, because for them they've seen other patients also doing the same. Because they've seen patient attendants paying extra money so that the doctors pay
get a particular
extra
service.
attention to theirs. So also doctors have realized, well,
this is a good venture.
This is a good venture.
It's an
the Ugandans are open to it.
When you mention salaries and when you mention maybe poor pay, I see that last year the government enhanced doctors' salaries in the phase enhancement of salaries for medical workers, and an entry medical officer, dental surgeon and pharmacist will earn or earns now 5 million shillings. A consultant, we know that they are now earning 12 million. Okay, and a senior consultant 20 million, and a nurse 3.5 million. Now we also need to go back and look at the economy of the country. I realize that doctors in countries like Kenya may be earning more, but compare the economies too, because at the end of the day you cannot pour out of an empty cup. So is the government not unfairly being judged when it comes to salaries? Hasn't it done its best?
Well, the judgment, though, which is most common, is the delay in salaries. Because when you look at less pay, in most cases, it is always dependent on how long has this doctor been receiving this particular amount of money. Because when you sit down with most of the doctors, they will tell you, I've spent in this field for 5 years, why am I earning the same amount of money? And then they will come out and say, the reason as to why I need an increment is because they are actually giving me more duties to do. For example, if you are assigned to do a given role at a given salary, even when you're working in an organization, you will still ask your human resource, why am I being given extra duties that I did not seek for or that I was not assigned to do at the start of my job? So you will say, I would definitely need extra fees or extra allowances and the like. And this is why most doctors come out and ask for government to increase their salary. Also talking about the economy or the state of the economy, you get to realize that the things or the basics in life are becoming more expensive. And if your salary isn't increasing, then you feel like it is quite unfair to you, yet you're also offering a service. So it is better if you're offering a service to also receive
to be
salary
compensated.
Exactly. So that you upbeat with
okay,
the
so
level
now
of the economy.
Before I share the views, because I have quite a number that have come through already, I would like for us to share what suggestions would you give that government could probably consider to enable doctors live fairly, unfairly, so that the government curbs the cases of extortion in various hospitals?
For cases where you've seen someone is just really being greedy, I think this person, one, needs to be put to book. So patients need to know who to report to for them to be able to get the help that they need. And that I think that part really needs to be checked, because if someone is being paid on time, for example, or being paid a particular amount of money, but they're still asking for more money from patients, then that is wrong. They need to be brought to book.
So there needs to be open communication channels for patients. For
patients, yes. Also, patients need, then there is need for sensitization when it comes to the patients. They need to know their rights, especially when it comes to accessing services in public hospitals. They need to know their rights, they need to know where to go, what they are entitled to, and where do they draw the line of, here, we can't go past this. You would have to chip in as a patient and maybe purchase this medicine or pay for this doctor if you have to. So the patients need to be really sensitized on what they need and how they should get it and who to talk to when the time comes. Those are some of the things that I could put forward. Maybe Sonko has some suggestions as well.
Well, I think government needs to up its game when it comes to the supervision in these hospitals, because you do realize most of the doctors who continuously overcharge or let's say extort money from the patients, it's either in the absence of the supervisor, or in scenarios where the supervisor is also available, you do realize they're working together. They're in the deal. So it also goes back to the level of supervision that needs to be done. Then I'm also paying attention to the fact that there should be room given to the fact that salaries need to come in on time, because the delayed salaries also make these particular people more greedy and desperate to pave their way through, and onto which they can actually get more. And then also the facilities and under which they operate, the equipment need to be in place. Because if you are in a hospital where the ambulance has no fuel, then you expect the doctors, you don't expect a doctor to use his money to actually fuel up this ambulance. It's not going to be refunded. So we need to look into this particular one. broadly, but also we need to also to side with the doctors a little bit, though also for the doctors as well, let them be a little bit more human when it comes to certain situations. For example, if you are having an expectant mother, why do you charge them extra fees when they are in such a condition? This is where humanity also comes in. So it's something that we really need to look at broadly.
Yeah, so we would like for you to be a part of this conversation, and the question we are asking today, we are asking for your take on extortion in government hospitals. What measures can be implemented to curb the vice? What measures do you think should be taken to curb the vice, which is extortion in government hospitals? Many cases have been reported. The most recent one is a surgeon in Masaka Hospital that is on the spot for having asked for a bribe of 700,000 before he could touch the patient, who ended up actually, the patient was suspected to have kidney disease, but now they ended up being referred to Uganda Cancer Institute after this incident. I have some views coming through, but if you are just joining us, you can WhatsApp us through the number 0709-602-592. Again, the number is 0709-602-592, and on the X app, the hashtag is UBCGMU. Now, I would like to share some of the views that have come through, and Chitaka Mayanja from Chiboga says, very sorry for such behavior from medics. These people are not called by God to be health servants. Let them come to the village and start farming. There is a lot of money. And this is retired Captain Chitaka Mayanja in Chiboga. Now, this one comes from Felix from Lira, and he says the issue of extortion in government hospitals is mainly fueled by those not on the payroll. There are many volunteers who do the work of doctors, that is clinicians, nurses, and midwives. So if they are not well regulated, they can end up in a dilemma. And this one says, good morning team, thank you for the show. I actually term that as greed for money. Greed for money should not be the first thing to think about in saving life. He had the same thing happen to him during this is a lady. She says, I had the same thing happen to me when my second born when the doctor was pushing for a C-section, yet it wasn't the due time yet. Later on, the midwife asked me how much I would pay before working upon my wife. Too sad for such beings. This is Anderson from Buckley. Sorry about that, Anderson. Then this one says that in a country where experts refuse to pass on knowledge to the young generation when not facilitated, in a country where intern students are carrying books to cars and serving tea to employees, in a country where elders do not want to live in a country where elders don't want to leave office but urging youths to study, in a country where thugs, fraudsters and tycoons are richer than persons genuinely trying to do things correctly, in a country where the leaders can't practice what they preach, is selling poison in the market, forgetting that the buyer might have purchased to kill a relative. Anyway, he says the solution, pay service providers per hour or per day immediately as business day closes. Here a servant is assured of something to plan with. And this one says, good morning family. Lack of professionalism and greed for money are the two major causes of extortion in hospitals. To some individuals, it's in their DNA, whereby they can never get enough even when they are well paid and facilitated. Still, their desires on less privileged is high, and this is so common in hospitals. That's why we always have endless strikes for medical workers. Secondly, monopoly. Some doctors take advantage of them being the only specialist to a particular disease in an area. So since patients have no other alternative, they can do all what it takes to save their lives. So the government should encourage doctors to value the ethics of their jobs. Once against them, their licenses are cancelled. This is Cricket Derek Gargamel. This one says everything is possible. Corruption is everywhere. Blame the doctors less. That's the way in Uganda. We should not normalize corruption. Then this one says, good morning, UBC. I interacted with one nurse yesterday from Tororo. And she was telling me, as a mother of 3 daughters, that at any one moment, she will not allow her daughters to become a nurse because of what is undergoing. Too much work, that they work from 6 a.m. sometimes to 8, and that explains why sometimes they are arrogant to patients. This is Alfred Onyango in Tororo. And Ahmed from Entebbe says, good morning. These doctors took oaths to save lives, preserve ethics and integrity. Extortion is behavior change in individual, which is unprofessional. Government increased these doctors and nurses' salaries, which is fair. Now I think they should serve humanity. Remember, rich man goes straight to Nsambia Hospital. To other hospitals, not Kawempe, but poor person, they are forced to go to government. Asking money is unethical. Basically, I'll paraphrase and say, he says that people that have money have options. Poor people do not have options, so doctors should be professional. And I will end with this one. He says most medics in public health facilities are more desperate than their patients. The situation is worse in the upcountry health centers where the health workers put on sandals and faded uniforms to go for work. So for fear of your life, you give something kitu kidogo. Well, those are views from our viewers. They are not views by UBC staff. But yeah, the situation is dire and doctors need to do better. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda. The conversation continues online.
Of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Over 1,000 children with disabilities in Uganda every 5 years have not had access to adequate education. And this has been basically due to lack of assistive devices to enable them get reasonable accommodation in schools. Mokisa Humanity and Inclusion Foundation is leading a campaign to fundraise for assistive devices for 500 children with disabilities to get in school in the year 2024. Join us to fundraise for braille machines, slates and styluses, white cane, braille paper, hearing aids, wheelchairs, audiobooks, book recorders, JAWS software, among others on 10th December at Hotel Africana. Register your child with a disability by calling us on 0740 55 04 95 or 0783 91 11 14. Donations from well-wishers are also welcome. Entrance is 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 and a table goes for 1 million shillings. This is sponsored by UBC, Mokisa Inclusive Schools, Mokisa Nursery and Primary School, Herona Hospital, Msafiri Tours and Molia Foundation.
In the heart of Uganda, a financial revolution is happening. We were once left out, saving the old-fashioned way, with an unexpected saving spot, keeping it too close for comfort. But now, we found a better way to save and manage money. Download the Wendy app from Google Play or App Store or dial *229#. With Wendy, your money is safe and you can earn interest daily. Visit your Google Play or App Store or dial *229# to register. Wendy, Wanawoli.
Hello, good morning again, and many thanks for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. Before we get into our business update, I'm here to remind you that we do have something new, something exciting, something informative, and something that will definitely take you to an adventure of thoughts, an adventure of reality into our motherland. And of course, stick around to UBC Good Morning Uganda, because we will definitely be bringing to you something brand new. So to you, our family, wherever you are, stick around, because we have lots and lots coming up for you just before this year ends. But well, besides that, now it's time for us to check in what is making headlines from the world of business. Now, from the business perspective, the innovators and young entrepreneurs want government to formulate favorable policies towards attracting investment into digitizing Uganda's economy. This call for action was made during the Uganda Innovation Week happening at the ICT Hub in Nakawa. The Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Amina Zawede, assured entrepreneurs and innovators of development partners that will help them spur their innovations. Now, besides that, the emerging technological advances from Ugandan entrepreneurs are faced with the unfavorable legislation and inadequate government support to the young innovators. That is financially, and as well when it comes to partnerships, that most of these innovators feel the government should as well come in and help support their growth, or what you could call their steady rise to the world of different trending innovations and businesses world over. Now, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance commits on its mandate to ensuring the connectivity to support startups and other innovations as well. During the 2023 Innovation Week, that is at the Nakawa ICT Hub, startups and stakeholders in the innovation ecosystem decried of hardships to access capital, and the startups as well as innovations were advised to engage in partnerships and make different ideas feasible for venture capital attraction. And of course, because partnerships do look like the way to go in that particular space. Well, now let's look at artificial intelligence. This time around, looking at it from the East African perspective. How is it affecting the world we are living in currently? Because the East African lawyers are worried about the rise of artificial intelligence today. Speaking of which, when you look at artificial intelligence, you look at the fact that some companies world over are now using robots. Not only that, the introduction of the likes of ChatGPT ruling the world of ideas and all that, which is limiting the mind of most of the innovators to think for themselves. So it becomes very difficult. Now, this has actually made things much easier by shortening time for research and reducing the needed manpower, according to some of the lawyers who have actually seen it is definitely something to worry about. When you look at artificial intelligence, however much it is still at a crossroads, it can lead to massive job loss, because one machine can definitely do things that can be done by 20 people. So that means if a company is able to buy that particular machine, it will be room for job losses or job cuts in most of the companies. Now, technology will be among the key issues to be discussed during the Societal Annual Conference, which is kicking off in Bujumbura, or which kicked off in Bujumbura rather. And time has come for lawyers to position themselves with the emerging technology as well. So when you look at the fact that technology is here, it does seem like it is not leaving any stone untouched. It seems like technology is affecting every other sector of the economy largely. And to that, most of the lawyers from the East African region are worried about the same. All right, now lastly, from our business updates this morning, let's have a look at the forex market close of business Wednesday evening to see how different currencies were trading. And then if you're going into the market, how you will definitely get these particular currencies. Now, the US dollar was opening at 3,781.46. That is for those buying, while selling at 3,791.46. Closing time, buying was at 3,781.83, while selling was at 3,781.81 rather. The Great Britain pound was buying at 4,786.74, while selling at 4,749.28. And then the euro buying at 4,174.46, while selling at 4,115.36. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 24.78, while selling at 24.84. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.51 shillings, while selling at 1.51 shillings as well. And then the South African rand was buying at 201.00, while selling at 201.54. So entirely looking at it, that is how you will definitely go into the forex market if you want to exchange various currencies. All right, now moving forward, let's get back to our local dailies in our press reviews, kicking off with the New Vision this morning. Now, the New Vision at the front page, all such stats in Teso, Busoga and Lango regions. Ground gravity, magnetic and geological surface mapping starts next month. More of that report is in page 5, New Vision. Then Joyce Mpanga to be laid to rest today. And then in the series, Balalo, tradition or excuse for land grabbing? Big question in the New Vision today. Now, Parliament opposition split over continued boycott. Read about it. As in court, DPP takes over marriage case against the Chabazinga. President Museveni receives equal opportunities report. All right, now moving on to the Daily Monitor. Katanga's death stirs relatives and state power. How about that for the headline on the Daily Monitor? Now, prices take off as grasshoppers finally land. Victoria of the grasshopper traders excited to sell and make more money. The bigger question is, how much is a cup of grasshoppers in your region though? But then also read about among reads the riot act to opposition lawmakers. Drama as chief magistrate is remanded over bribery. Well, then also Museveni rejects Justice Chisache early retirement. As in the DM today, matters relationships, navigating the path to financial harmony. Crossing the borders now to Kenya, the Daily Nation. How Treasury gifted farm 5 billion Kenyan shillings for air. How about that? Controversy. The project is still pending, but contractor moved to court and won hefty award, according to what the Daily Nation is highlighting today. Azimio tax cuts to wait Ndugu, tells talks team. Then also governors clash with Gachangua over El Nino cash as move junior school to secondary to save funds, Ruto urged in that one. Now extensively, the Citizen in Tanzania, TIC invest in these 8 areas for good results. TIC advising the government. Then also the national rebound, why hotels in Arusha are raking it in. The national energy, rare set to connect 450 Manyara villages, that is in Tanzania as well. IC Rwanda, the IC Rwanda DRC relations loom over East African Community Summit. Then Tanzanian wins converted research award, as also Serengeti named best park in Africa again. So well, that is it for our press review, and of course also what is making headlines from the world of business. Though before I get to Monica here, I will actually kick off with this as well. Monica, I don't know if you've tested the grasshoppers this year.
No. By the way, let me tell you one funny thing. I love grasshoppers, but I think I've not eaten grasshoppers in like 2-3 years.
I did eat grasshoppers yesterday. And the excitement that is coming in this time around is the fact that grasshoppers
and you know
have finally been revealed.
And you know what's funny this time? Grasshoppers relocated. They decided to go away from Masaka and went to Fort Portal.
So it's a funny world. But anyway,
so
Monica is here
brother here will tell us what his people from Fort Portal did to migrate the grasshoppers from Masaka to his area. But thank you for giving it Good Morning Uganda. This is the moment where we share traffic updates for you that is about to hit the road, or if you are live streaming and this on your phone and you're already on the road, we are going to take it up from Banda, that is along the Jinja Kampala highway, and see how this area is doing up until we reach somewhere close or in the heart of town. Now around Banda stage we see that Banda taxi stage, we see that there is traffic jam coming through, and but the red zone is not intense over there. So as we move along, there is a smooth flow of traffic as we head to the areas of Nakawa. And then of course in some parts you're going to encounter a little bit of traffic, but not so much of it. Then I see from Chambogo Road coming down to Banda on the main road, there is a bit of traffic that is coming through at this intersection from Chambogo Road. But going ahead, there is still smooth flow of traffic along the Jinja Kampala highway. Now, if you are still, if you're approaching the areas, or when you're about to approach the area that comes from Tinda Stretcher Road, and of course this intersection has Nakawa Jinja Road, this intersection has this road that is coming in from from Buya, joining the main Jinja Kampala highway. Usually there is a lot of traffic here along Spear Motors, but this morning there isn't. There is smooth flow of traffic in this area. Even at the intersection itself, there isn't a lot of red over there. And of course, for those coming in from Tinda, I see green zones over there, so there is no traffic jam coming through from Tinda Stretcher Road. Now moving ahead, immediately after this intersection, when you move ahead, now you're going to encounter the red zones. And as you can see there at around Kagate taxi stage, there is traffic jam coming through from Katalima Road, joining the main Kampala Jinja highway. And this entire area is a red zone on both sides of the road, meaning that if you're coming from Kampala going to the side of Jinja, you're going to be held up for a bit of time. Actually, you might spend quite some time in this area, because I see both sides of the road, that is the incoming and ongoing, is still in intense traffic, and it goes ahead up until you reach the traffic lights in Nakawa, around the road that comes from Luzira and Chitintali. Now around here, the people that are coming from Newport Bell Road, you will experience some traffic jam, I think around the area after Capital Shoppers, joining the main road at the traffic lights in Nakawa. But the good news is that after that section, after the traffic lights, now there is smooth flow of traffic, especially for those going to the side of Chireka, Banda, Nambole, that side. But around the rugby grounds at Chadondo, you will encounter a bit of traffic. And of course, this traffic is coming through from the Lugogo bypass, but it is not intense, so you won't spend a lot of time there. And as we move ahead at the Kampala Jinja highway, there is that intersection that is coming in from 3rd Street. You may encounter a bit of traffic jam over there. And then as you move ahead, there is smooth flow of traffic along Jinja Road up until the roundabout. But even at the roundabout, except for a little bit of traffic that is going and coming from Wampeo Avenue, there isn't much to worry about over there. Of course, there is some bit of traffic at the Jinja Road intersection where it meets Access Road, Yusufule Road, and of course Jinja Road. So you could spend a few minutes, maybe 5, in this section. And of course, I mean, in most cases, especially in the morning or during peak traffic hours, there are traffic police officers in this section guiding traffic. So if you must be delayed, it should be because of how they are guiding traffic this morning. Now moving still ahead along Ginger Road, now approaching the areas of Kampala Road, we see that there is largely smooth flow of traffic and a few hold-ups here and there, but overall the traffic is smooth if you're going to the heart of town. Of course, at Kampala Road you will find a little bit of traffic in some sections. I also see there is traffic coming in from Pilkington Road, joining Kampala Road, and of course there is some traffic around the city square. And of course, when you move over from there, then there is a smooth flow of traffic in the rest of the city, at least as far as Kampala Road is concerned. So this is your traffic update. If you're on the road or thinking of hitting the road, this will help you to negotiate. I hope this will help you to negotiate your route and of course decide where to pass. And of course the roads are slippery because it is raining, so we need to be vigilant as we hit the roads and make sure that we are not a danger to ourselves or other road users. And especially now when we're going into the festive season, most of us are usually extremely excited, and that causes dangers on the road. So stay calm as you drive, as you cross, as you ride. Be extremely vigilant and careful. It is still Good Morning Uganda. We continue with the agenda and later on sports updates.
Of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret? Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM? Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk. No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish Development Model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
I'm Atube Richard.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prelnol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
Over 1,000 children with disabilities in Uganda every 5 years have not had access to adequate education. And this has been basically due to lack of assistive devices to enable them get reasonable accommodation in schools. Mokisa Humanity and Inclusion Foundation is leading a campaign to fundraise for assistive devices for 500 children with disabilities to get in school in the year 2024. Join us to fundraise for braille machines, slates and styluses, white cane, braille paper, hearing aid, wheelchairs, audiobooks, book recorders, JAWS software, among others on 10th December at Hotel Africana. Register your child with a disability by calling us on 0740 55 04 95 or 0783 91 11 14. Donations from well-wishers are also welcome. Entrance is 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 and a table goes for 1 million shillings. This is sponsored by UBC, Mokisa Inclusive Schools, Mokisa Nursery and Primary School, Herona Hospital, Msafiri Tours and Malia Foundation.
In the heart of Uganda, a financial revolution is happening. We were once left out, saving the old-fashioned way, with an unexpected saving spot, keeping it too close for comfort. But now, we found a better way to save and manage money. Download the Wendy app from Google Play or App Store or dial *229#. With Wendy, your money is safe and you can earn interest daily. Visit your Google Play or App Store or dial *229# to register. Wendy Wanawoli.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prelnol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
I'm Kisame Andrew, cold chain technician attached to Kalio District Local Government in the health department. The vaccines come when they're in the truck, which is refrigerated from NMS. I receive them, so I load these vaccines. There are some cold boxes I put in those containers, then I take the facilities. Even in the facilities, there are fridges. We are so grateful to the government of Uganda because each and every health center 3 and 4 in Kalio district has a refrigerator. Once they reach there, I offload them. I also put them in the fridges. These facilities have scheduled outreaches whereby they have to go to the community, to the villages, communities, and make sure that they vaccinate. So they also have small containers which are called vaccine carriers, which they put on their back, of course with some ice to maintain the temperature. So that when they mobilize, the community mobilizers, the VHTs, the LOC ones do mobilize the communities in gazetted outreaches which are already gazetted. They come and also workers find the clients there and then they do vaccinate them.
called Ezekiel Wanjikate. We are staying in Busala village, that is in Luka district. This is a commercial agriculture farm purely run on a family basis. We are now concentrating on coffee, and we got that coffee in 2018 from Operation Wealth Creation. NADS gave us the solar water pump, which we are currently using to put up irrigation on the farm and be able to irrigate the coffee, which is sitting on a 30-acre area. What we're able to reap out of the coffee, we're able to sell it off and make an expansion, because with irrigation you can't go wrong, but be able to pick all around the whole year. And that's all income that will be coming in. On a special thanks goes to Operation Wealth Creation, to the district local government in Luka district that has also given us the support to supervise all the work that we have been doing. And finally, NADS that gave us the solar water pump.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome along to the GMU agenda. Good morning again, and thank you for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda this fruitful Thursday morning. We are cruising through, and regardless of the weather, definitely make sure that you stay inspired and motivated by waking up with us every single day, Monday to Friday, from 6:30 a.m. till the hour of 9 o'clock, as we give you information, entertainment, and of course, making sure that you keep up to speed with the current affairs of the country, as well as looking at what is making its way from the world of the international scene. But besides that, at this particular moment, before we get into the agenda and the topic of our discussion this morning, I'm here to remind you that we have something new, something interesting, something that is definitely here to make sure that you stay entertained, informed, and keeping up to speed with the world. With the world, Uganda has to what Uganda has to offer to the world. An exciting new segment will be on your way here on Good Morning Uganda. So keep your eyes glued on this particular show, as we'll definitely be giving you all that matters to do with current affairs, entertainment, and information. So we are here to make sure that you are inspired. Well then, as we are heading into what we are having for our discussion, please do remember you can as well share your opinion on the WhatsApp number, as well as on the X app using the hashtag UBCGMU. And our discussion this time around is rotating around the opposition members of parliament who have continuously remained far away from the August House, and they've continued with their boycott. And on that particular regard, the Speaker to Parliament, that is Anita Ann Among, told them that boycotting, if they are to continue boycotting, they should seek individual leave. So it's like one member of parliament should write to the speaker seeking for leave instead of just boycotting parliament, because they were voted to represent their constituents while in parliament, not away from parliament. This conversation is what we are going to be having this morning with Robert Chirabo Nyonyi-Ntono on its impact and how it affects the decisions being made in Parliament in the absentia of these particular opposition members of Parliament. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Sonko. You look very smart. Is that called a back coat, a bus coat?
A bus coat, waistcoat.
Waistcoat.
You can call it any of the two.
Any of the two. Okay, you know, it is one of the things that usually confuses you as someone. I don't know why some people choose to call it bus coat, but I must say you're very smart. I love your combination this morning.
Thank you very much, though.
Now, looking at the issue at hand, that is the continuous boycott of parliamentary seating by members of the opposition. We must take Ugandans back that from 6th of November, members of parliament of the opposition have resorted to use a boycott as a mean of pressuring government on the issue of 18, I would say, missing persons and human rights violation.
Okay.
Now, when you look at this, first and foremost, Ugandans must understand that under a multi-party dispensation, we have the ruling party, you have the opposition, some want to call it government in waiting, others want to call it alternative government, and then the independent. But numbers play a lot in running affairs of parliament. Now, in a country where you have the government in power, the party in power having majority, then it is clear that if the opposition, you're less, your strength now can only come in when you lobby, when you convince either the independents, if there are a huge number there, or you're able to convince some members.
And of which the independent members are also attached to the government.
To the government, to the ruling party. Or you convince some of the people in the ruling party to move a decision. Because this whole issue of boycott in a parliament like Uganda, the structure or nature like Uganda's parliament, the 11th parliament now that we have,
yes,
is more or less waving to a blind man. Because a boycott in the affairs of parliament today, we can only look at it at moral grounds. Because when you look at the rules of procedures or when you look at critical decision making in parliament, there is nowhere it facilitates for a boycott. That maybe when a bill is going to be passed and you have a section of members of parliament who are absent, therefore it won't pass. That can only come on moral grounds, that we've missed divergent views on this matter. There is nowhere that a bill going to be passed in parliament can be stopped because there is a section of members of parliament who boycotted. The only issue you can raise is lack of quorum.
Okay.
And you say, Honorable Speaker, or even you go to court and challenge that according to the rules of procedures, we are supposed to have this number of members in the House present to pass a particular bill.
Well, Robert, let's look at the funny twist about everything. The Speaker says that henceforth, these members of parliament will also be blocked from traveling abroad, and they should as well be blocked from attending the committees. Now, the funny twist about it is that most of these accounting committees are headed by the opposition leaders. So when you look at this, where does this leave the opposition in general?
Well, I first wanted to look at that to show the impact of this boycott.
Yes.
When I tell you that if you are to go where business matters on plenary, of course what comes to plenary is first from these committees, that their absentia has no impact. For Ugandans to know, so that's why we had the age limit, they boycotted. We had the term limit, they boycotted. Of course, that wasn't the 11th parliament, but everything sailed through. So where we need voting, it has no impact. But on moral grounds, it can have an impact. That's why they are using it to pressure government. That the alleged 18 missing persons. Now, when we go to committees, each committee that has a chairperson is deputized. And there is no way you can say that committee work is going to come to a standstill because their chair is not there.
Yes.
Even if it's reading a report that a committee has come up with. So, also there you find that it doesn't have, on moral grounds, like again I said, but it cannot hinder. We can't say that maybe the budget procedure is going to come to a standstill because we have a section of members of parliament. Now, because the law, a boycott in procedures is not something, that's why the Speaker says, one, this is not a problem of parliament. that maybe it is an issue that they are boycotting because of maybe how allowances are run in parliament. It is another arm of government. That is where you can talk about the torture and all that. Take it to that side. But we can dialogue, we can handle this in a better manner. Now, when the speaker says you're not going to participate in the East African Games, those, according to her, that those that have boycotted, says don't go to committees. The speaker is looking at it this way. One, members of parliament had tactfully also told the speaker, some in response to social media, radio stations and TV stations, were telling the speaker, we are not absent. You get it? We are not absent from parliament because actually we are in committees. So you cannot take us as having missed parliament. Because under the constitution, I want to look through very fast. It is Article 83 of the Constitution that outlines circumstances under which a member of parliament may lose their seat. These include being absent from 16 sittings without permission from the speaker.
And of which
now,
the speaker is yet to be.
You must write to the speaker and give valid reasons
as to why you're absent.
As to why you're absent.
These ones are just boycotting.
I'm absent because now the speaker formally has not received anything. And formally, because law is funny, formally, Anita could sit and the media could cover. But if there is no pen and paper, you can't challenge her decision. Because you'll be considered absent. Because you've never given a reason for you not to be seen in plenary. Now, these had been very smart and were saying, but we are doing other parliamentary work.
Duties, yes.
So we are not absent, because if I drive in parliament clogging, then I go and sit in a committee. You're not going to say I'm absent. If I represent Uganda in the East African Games, I think they're going to be in Rwanda. I'm not going to say I'm absent. And at the end of the day, I go home with a payment. So, her saying desist from any parliamentary work, one, it makes it clear that they were absent, because they will not have done any parliamentary work. So clearly they are absent.
You know, Robert, also I need to understand the impact of this on the parties, because the good thing the speaker did mention that she is not punishing the party, but she's punishing individuals. If she is to start punishments, she's going to be punishing individuals. But where does this leave the party and their confidence in the voters? Because this has actually brought about the fact that Ugandans are now picking sides. Others are happy that the opposition is boycotting. Others are not happy because they feel underrepresented. They feel their members of parliament should be in parliament airing out their grievances instead of shouting from the outside. So how is it going to affect the growth of these parties as we're actually shooting to 2026 in just 2 years?
Now, we can look at it in a number of dimensions. First, as a political party, your presence in parliament and discussing issues matters so much. Because, like I said, you can have capacity or ability to lure other sides. And even on plenary, your divergent views, much as they may not be taken, you may be outnumbered, but you've had an opportunity to air them out, and on the answered, they are recorded. That should history happen, we have where we can judge and say that no, it is on record. While discussing this, the opposition, members of the opposition were able to say this and that and that. That is one. It helps individually and at the level of a political party. Now, you talk about the electorate. If you're not on the plenary or on the floor of parliament, you've seen various members taking advantage and raising matters of national importance, hearing out their opinions, talking about their constituency, And then the speaker will tell you, well, that is a matter we need to follow, we need to investigate, you know, we need to do this. Your presence, as much as there are so many, but still those 3 minutes, if one's hand by luck attracts the attention of the speaker. Of course, I've had some members of parliament complaining, why is it so that always attracts the speaker's attention, why so and so. But your constituency at that moment benefits from you. And when you're present, you have the ability to caucus and speak so that the views of your people are gotten. But now if you're not there, because parliament is going on, if you're not there, even that opportunity that you have. 2, if it is a serious boycott and the speaker expels, or at one time these members do not get what they get as take home, allowances, salaries, you know, they contribute to party activity as well. You find that most of these members of parliament, believe you me or not, they have a percentage they give to their political parties. Whether that money is used for the right choice or it is spent anyhow, but they contribute something to the party that goes to run activities of the party and do something. So the party stands to lose this economic loss, but also in terms of pushing their voices. Just imagine if members of parliament of the opposition were in the house and on daily or whenever there is a sitting, one would raise that matter on the floor.
Yes.
So, Honourable Speaker, we are still here, but there is this issue. We are still here, and all of them use the opportunity they get. Who knows? Maybe the entire parliament will discuss that over and over and over. But they're in a, you know, where they are, their voices are not heard at places where they matter. And voters should understand there's a tendency of some members of parliament who the voters may think are actually delivering and airing out their views, but they are doing it in places that do not matter. When I was a reporter and used to cover parliament, we had members of parliament that were very fond of not speaking on the floor of parliament.
But they were so quick.
But when they would move out, they would stand on the stairs of parliament,
waiting for the reporters to come and ask.
They would even call. They stand, or their ADCs, you receive a call, you get it. Then you would come, a microphone, or to come to my office. Now in the news, someone, an item will move.
Exactly, the news bite is...
Honourable so has said they will not allow this to happen.
But yet he was silent in
now,
plenary.
Where it matters, you didn't speak. Or you go to a radio station, and the electorate are hearing you very vocal, very passionate, you know, and you make the voter think that while you're speaking or you're airing out their views, where it mattered,
you didn't speak.
You didn't speak. Where you are, this is the cheap politics that is eating our country. That the speaker talks about, you go on social media, you go on radio stations. But where it matters, you've not been able to air it out. It's like you're not eating in your home, then you go and you tell the son of your neighbor, I'm feeling hungry, but instead of coming and telling your parents that, well, this is what I need, I lack food. So, it's this boycott may do more harm than good in the long run if the speaker picks her grounds. Because one would say, it even lacks, I had Honourable Mike Sebalo, and I was saying, but you can't say you're boycotting parliament, the sittings, and you're not boycotting to make it serious. Boycott even the benefits.
Of the same.
Of the same. Not saying that there is no valid reason. That is why government came up and said they have instituted a re-investigation into this matter. I think it was Tuesday this week when they're supposed to bring a report, and according to the speaker, there were issues where the key people in this had to be part and either a very important meeting on that, so it wasn't possible this Tuesday. Now wait for a later date. But this is the challenge, that at the end of the day, if the speaker says the law is very clear, you write, not as a group, as an individual, you write to the speaker, giving reasons and valid reasons of why you're absent. If you don't do that, physically she may see you, but practically you're absent. You make the 15 consecutive sittings when you're not there. There is a clear facilitation, Article 83 of the Constitution, that guides how you may lose your seat. If he chooses to go serious and does that, what then will happen? Because parliament business can go on without members of the opposition. Critical decisions will be passed. Legally it is okay. Morally it could be wrong, but legally it is okay. And parliament is looking at rules and procedures.
Okay, and also looking at the fact that we are 7 weeks in since the opposition decided to boycott. And what they are saying is until government comes out to give them answers to their allegations of the continuous human rights abuses onto the people or the supporters of the opposition and some of the opposition members of parliament, they will not get into parliament again. So what kind of dialogue does the opposition want, and why is government delaying to give them this?
Well, I can speak about what the opposition wants because it is clear. They are saying, give us a clear report accounting for the alleged 18 missing persons. Bring that report. Produce Chibarama, produce so and so. They have their names, the name of the people that they feel were abducted for supporting, to be more clear, National Unity Platform. Remember the days of the drone has picked, he was picked, he was taken. So they have that list. And they are simply saying, government, come and tell us that we have so and so. He committed this offense. Produce them before court. If you have the evidence, if they are guilty, we have no problem. Let them face the wrath of the law. If they are innocent, let them go. But the opposition believes that these were picked by state agencies and they are being held maybe in ungazetted
areas,
detention centers. Ungazetted. There's a term, safe houses and all that, you know. So they're saying, produce them. Which fairly and squarely, if there is a crime committed, the laws are clear of this country. You hold someone, if it's a detention, not more than 48 hours, produce them in court, or release them on bail. So these people are neither in court, neither have they been released. But I said allegedly missing. Because the Uganda Human Rights Commission at one time came out and said that some of these people never existed, they could never be traced.
Okay.
Now, that is what the opposition is demanding. And of course, issues of what they call continuous torture and violation of human rights by members of the opposition.
Okay, before we get into the other question that I will definitely want to ask from you, I will open up to our viewers out there. If at all you want to share your opinions on the same matter that we are discussing this morning in relation to the boycotts that are continuing in Parliament, that is the opposition members of Parliament boycotting 7 weeks in so far in there. And you can share your opinion on our WhatsApp 0709 602 592, or of course going to the X app that is with the hashtag UBCDMU, so that we can definitely interact and pick your views on the same kind of conversations we are having. The WhatsApp number is 0709 602 592 for the conversation that we are having. Now, looking at the fact that the Speaker has warned that they are going to be stopped from engaging in parliamentary activities. Now, when you look at the fact that we have East African parliamentary games coming on board, in a situation where we do not have these members of parliament coming up, who is going to attend?
Well, for that, these games, it is not only the opposition members of parliament that are part of those that are going to represent Uganda in
but
this
we do have
games.
some talented ones in the
Yes,
opposition.
but you see, if they are not available,
we choose,
actually majority of the house is NRM.
True. But not as much as interested in engaging in
even in soccer, you can have a good player miss a game.
True.
Either they have an injury, they have a red card. Teams have come where their good strikers are nowhere. They have either won or been defeated. And so here, we are not going to lack a team, definitely. That because they are missing.
So is it a loss for Parliament? I want to also understand, is it a loss for Parliament, or is it going to look like a long-term loss for the opposition as we go on with this kind of boycotts?
Well, at the end of it, legally, the opposition can lose. Because what if such a time, a very exciting bill comes up, and we need the game of numbers. And they went into this knowing that it can yield or not. It was like, because they are saying they're using this as to pressure government. And I must say they could have scored, because government initiated new investigations into the issues they are putting at hand. And of course, investigations may take time. You know, one thing is when you're in a certain position, you think this is like turning on a switch of maybe igniting a car engine, or you go into your room and you turn on a switch to have light. Because there are a number of issues put in place. And the government must investigate. That's why they instituted a new investigation initiated to re-understand, re-investigate, and find out the people you're claiming were abducted, the people you're claiming were missing. Are they really missing? Or is it a political game here also? Because multi-party dispensation has brought so much immoral ways of doing politics in this country. Very immoral ways of doing politics. And at all sides. Some are even evil of doing politics. So it is automatic that the government is going to say, they are here. Maybe some truly are not there. Or maybe some are there, but for some reasons, government knows I'm not an expert in issues of security. So, having pressured government to institute a new investigation, one would say that is a step in the right direction. Because they have been able to pressure government to that.
Okay.
Yes.
I have some comments coming in here. I have a gentleman who says that the problem with Ugandan leaders is that they only learn not from the view of things, but from the. He says that the problem with Ugandan leaders is that they don't learn from the view of things, but from only when things happen to their families. He says that this is the message to the leaders of parliament. So he's like saying that they are not looking at this from the political angle, rather from a personal point of view. How true can that statement be? Because it does seem like he feels there is a lot of selfishness in the way some opposition members of parliament are dealing with this boycotting.
Well, he could be right. Reason being, you think of the families, some we've seen have not been able to investigate and find out if it's true. A mother with her children, you know, saying my husband was picked, he was the sole breadwinner, these children have not gone to school. Practically speaking, humanly, it is very touching. And if that person is still there and alive, I would do anything in my powers to ensure that this man, if he committed a crime, he faces the wrath of the law. If he didn't, he goes back and unites with his family, you know, because of the children. So that one would say that Anita Mongi and others, because it is not them, they can say anything. But then you forget that there is parliament, an institution of government that has work to do, that these members came to perform this work. and they're absenting themselves. I don't want to call this a boycott now because it is not catered for. They are absenting themselves, absconding from duty. Because Parliament believes that no matter what, you have to find methods within Parliament of solving other than boycotting. So what do you do if you're the speaker? Because you're accountable to Ugandans.
Very true.
That these members of Parliament went missing. Formerly, they never made a communication, so we can take you on that they were absent. If they miss these sittings, then if they are not doing the core work of representing people in the parliamentary sittings and they are meandering committees, going to games, and they are taking taxpayers' money.
Okay. And of course, other comments that are coming up, I have one from Jasper Ogwang, who says, I want to thank the Speaker, Anita Among, for taking a very good decision, and I want her to stand her ground, that let her expel all boycotting members of Parliament because they can be paid, yet they are busy on the street. Well, I think expelling them as of now would be a harsh one, I should say. Also, kindly, please send in messages. Do not call directly. Then I also have another comment coming in saying, good morning and thanks for the show. Those opposition members of Parliament have chosen to become hooligans instead of sitting on a round table and get things sorted amicably. They should style up seriously. Our Parliament is a joke. I remain Amukanga Flo from Ntinda. Thank you very much, Flo, from Ntinda, for watching. Then we also have someone coming saying that the other person is Chirabo, saying, this one says, good morning, Ndugu Chirabo. Thanks for always being spot on and articulate on collaborating your topics. This one is thanking you deeply. And then he says, he says that it's unfortunate that the August House has since become like salt that has lost taste. The floor of Parliament is now a national theatre for discussing petty issues like love affairs and bad touches, and to crown it, open fights for partners and illegal marriages. But all these are important, by the way. The Speaker is simply sanitizing rotten tomatoes. Her instructions yesterday came too late, and not only selectively and subjectively. He says that we have members of Parliament that have not attended parliamentary plenary sessions ever since they were elected, yet they have not been reprimanded. But that is a serious allegation, my friend, because at least what we do know, so far, at least someone has been in Parliament for as long. Because when you look at some of the other acts that have been passed, looking at the time they were passing the anti-homosexuality bill, it was full house, really. And then the only absentees that we had, I think, were due to medical issues and the like. But then I'll go through some few others. Good morning, UBC. Thank you for keeping us on the show. Farida Mwanga Nakasongola. Then Kelvik from Arua City says, but what is wrong with those guys in Parliament? Let them stop boycotting. They are making us hate Parliament. Then this will be my last Senkoto David from Zimbabwe says, we should know that activism is the only language that the ruling government deserves, he says. That is why the opposition members of Parliament are doing this. But well, of course, you get to realize that when you're pushing for dialogue, it becomes the easiest way to deal with things. But as we're summing up with our conversation this morning in relation to the boycotts and the like, do you think this is time for, will it be a sign that will see the opposition weaken and get back to Parliament because of these particular warnings coming in from the Speaker of Parliament? Or they are likely to continue with their boycott?
Well, in life I've learned that there are things that you cannot sustain.
Okay.
This boycott cannot be sustained. That is a reality.
Okay.
If the Speaker stands her ground, you're going to see already there is information we are receiving that now some members of the opposition already split over this boycott. Second, for our viewers, if I'm working for UBC and I get an accident, I'm involved in an accident, I'm hospitalized, my boss knows I'm hospitalized, but I do not communicate. In my contract, it is very clear that I have to communicate in writing. Send a letter, and then later I'm removed from the payroll because I didn't communicate. My boss knows and maybe has come to visit me. But it is clearly stipulated, I must, and they must have this letter. So what is going to happen to members of parliament? And the speaker knows that you boycotted, which is not in the procedures facilitated and catered for in the law anywhere. Does not stop her. You thinking she knows we have a boycott as opposition. When you miss 15 consecutive sittings, you can lose your seat. I want to conclude by saying this. We must move away, and this goes more to our brothers and sisters in the opposition. We know you don't have the numbers, but we must move away from politics of Zibampani. I'm looking for a way of politics of, you see, this 11th parliament is being so much spoilt by some members of politics of see me. You being a member of parliament, we expect that you can dialogue. You can reason out. But it's very hurting that day by day we see voices of reasoning, voices of dialogue moving away in the political arena of this country. It is now what gives me mileage. We are going the wrong route. Yes, the speaker will assert herself. But before you assert yourself and be very assertive, isn't there another way that we can do it? Yes, the head of opposition will assert herself, will assert himself. But are all options of dialogue done and dusted? When you talk of activism, you also must understand to what extent can this yield. If you've been able to get government initiate another investigation, why don't you ensure that government give these updates how far you've gone? Opposition, better way of even if, but as long as we still have this cheap politicking, these cheap acts of politicking, you go to social media, you go on the steps of parliament, where real sense matters, you've not been part of it. We are moving our country in a wrong direction. We should go back to reasoning, we should go back to dialogue, we should go back to doing and saying things where it matters. Then, there's a way we are playing on the voters.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, some voters here are saying that some of them have not seen their members of parliament representing their issues. Only they are only seeing them in burial, during burial ceremonies.
Even some have not mentioned even Yond, but they are very vivid now on the boycott.
All right. But Wellen, that has been our agenda discussion this morning. Thank you very much, Robert Chirabo, for your submissions. He will be back later, rather. That is in the GMU Extra. And then coming up is Ruben Pima Chibirango with GMU Sports this particular morning. Our conversation has been backed by the background of the Speaker to Parliament yesterday ordering the Clerk to Parliament to block members of Parliament who are boycotting plenary sessions from traveling abroad and also from attending various committees until they return to Parliament or cancel off their boycott in relation to attending plenary session. Of course, we all have our opinions on the same matter, but what are yours? The conversation does continue online. Thank you very much for sticking around to GMU. Please do so as well, as when we do return with Ruben, more sports action coming up for you, so stay tuned to GMU.
Uganda Revenue Authority is proud to announce the Taxpayers Appreciation Awards, where URA will recognize and reward the most compliant taxpayers